Did you know that researchers have found clutter raises stress hormones in women over 50 more than in any other age group? For many senior ladies, the home that once felt like a sanctuary can slowly begin to feel like a museum of yesterday's objects. A closet stuffed with clothes that no longer fit. Kitchen counters hidden under appliances you haven't touched in years. And shelves filled with gifts you never really wanted, but couldn't bring yourself to part with. Picture this. A single teacup sitting on a shelf. It hasn't been used in a decade, yet it's carefully dusted every week. On the surface, it's just porcelain. But deep down, it carries something heavier: memories, guilt, and the silent question, what if I let it go? Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, what objects in your home are silently weighing on your heart? Because clutter isn't just about things. It's about the invisible burden they create. The stress that sneaks in, the anxiety you feel when you can't find what you need, and the sadness of living surrounded by reminders of the past instead of room for the future. And here's the good news. Decluttering doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't mean giving up your story. In fact, done the right way, it can make your home, and your heart, lighter than ever before. Stay with me, because the tips I'm about to share are simple, gentle, and powerful, and the very first one might surprise you. Let me introduce you to Althea. She's 72 years old, a retired nurse who spent decades caring for others in a small Ohio town. Her hands once held newborns taking their first breaths, comforted patients in their final hours, and wrote prescriptions that eased pain. But now, in the quiet of retirement, those same hands shuffle through endless stacks of mail, sort piles of clothing, and cling to objects that no longer serve her. Althea raised 3 children in this house. The walls still echo with laughter from birthdays and holidays, but her children have moved on, building lives in other cities. 5 years ago, she lost her husband, and in his absence, the home began to change. Not dramatically at first, just a few boxes left unopened, a closet left untouched, a garage filling slowly with someday items. Before she realized it, every corner seemed to whisper a reminder of what used to be. She looks around and feels heavy. It's not the dust or the clutter itself, it's the weight of yesterday pressing against her present. She wants to make space, but every time she tries, she freezes, unsure where to begin. And that's where her journey starts. The 7 effortless tips we're about to explore are the same ones Althea used to transform her home and her spirit. Through her, you'll see that decluttering isn't just about letting go of things. It's about reclaiming peace, joy, and the freedom to live fully today. Tip 1. The memory drawer test. Althea's first step was small, almost deceptively simple. She didn't tackle her whole closet or the mountain of boxes in the attic. Instead, she walked over to a desk in her living room and opened just one drawer. Inside were birthday cards from decades past, faded photographs, old recipes scribbled on yellowing paper, and church bulletins neatly stacked. Each piece held a memory, but together they created chaos. Here's where the memory drawer test comes in. Instead of feeling guilty about parting with anything sentimental, Althea gave herself permission to keep a single drawer for treasures of the heart. That was it. Just one. She carefully chose the letters from her late husband, her children's school drawings, and the recipe her mother wrote for her on the day she got married. The rest. She realized they weren't memories, they were duplicates, clutter, or pieces of paper she had been holding out of habit. By limiting herself to one drawer, Althea discovered something powerful. Boundaries create freedom. She wasn't erasing her past, she was curating it. That drawer became her sanctuary of memories, while every other drawer in her home was freed for the present. And here's the truth. Your memories live in you, not in the stacks of paper you've kept for decades. Choosing a single space doesn't dishonor your story. It protects it from being buried under the weight of clutter. So ask yourself right now, if you had to keep just one drawer for the most meaningful pieces of your life, what would you place inside first? Tell us in the comments below. Tip 2. The gentle goodbye basket. After Althea discovered the piece of her memory drawer, she still felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of items scattered around her home. Old scarves she hadn't worn in years, decorative bowls collecting dust, even unopened gifts tucked into corners. The thought of doing one big purge made her chest tighten. It felt too final, too harsh. That's when she tried something gentler, the goodbye basket. She found a woven basket, the kind that reminded her of summer picnics with her children. She placed it near her front door, not hidden away in a closet, but visible, almost like a quiet reminder each time she walked past. The rule was simple: every single day, one item had to go into the basket. Just one. Some days it was an old magazine. Other days it was a sweater she hadn't worn in 20 years. Sometimes it was a kitchen gadget she realized she had duplicates of. What made this so powerful wasn't the act of getting rid of things. It was the ritual of release. Each item in the basket represented a small victory, a conscious choice to make space for today instead of clinging to yesterday. By the end of the week, her basket was full and her spirit felt lighter. She could choose to donate the items, gift them to family, or simply discard them. This slow, steady rhythm didn't overwhelm her. It empowered her. And it can empower you too. So here's my question for you. If you had a goodbye basket by your door right now, what's the very first item you'd place inside? Tell us in the comments below. Tip 3. The 1-cup kitchen rule. When Althea walked into her kitchen, it was like stepping into a time capsule. Cabinets overflowing with mismatched mugs collected over decades, shelves stacked with plates meant for family gatherings that no longer happened as often, and drawers stuffed with utensils she hadn't touched since the 90s. For her, the kitchen wasn't just cluttered, it was a shrine to a season of life that had passed. Every pan and platter whispered of holidays when the house was full, of Sunday roasts when her children were small, and of coffee shared with her husband before church. But here's the shift Althea made. She realized her kitchen needed to serve her today, not the life she lived 30 years ago. So she created a simple rule, the 1-cup kitchen rule. She picked out the one mug that brought her the most joy, blue ceramic with tiny hand-painted daisies. She kept one plate she used daily, and one cooking tool she couldn't live without. The rest, the excess, was released. At first, it felt strange. But soon, she discovered something liberating. Less meant easier. Fewer dishes to wash. More space to breathe. Her kitchen became less about storage and more about comfort. And here's the heart of it, it's not about losing family, it's about honoring your today. By choosing her favorites and letting go of the rest, Althea wasn't erasing the past. She was making space for fresh memories, for quiet mornings with tea, and for peace instead of overwhelm. So let me ask you, if you had to choose just 1 cup to keep, which one would it be? Tip 4. The 10-minute sunset routine. As the sun dipped low and painted her living room in golden light, Althea found herself developing a gentle ritual. Instead of collapsing into her recliner after dinner, she gave herself just 10 minutes, a small window of time to reset her space before bed. Not an hour, not an entire evening. Just 10 quiet minutes. She would choose a single surface, a coffee table, a nightstand, or even the pile of unopened mail by the door. Sometimes she tossed expired coupons, sometimes she folded a blanket, sometimes she placed a book back on the shelf. What mattered wasn't the size of the task but the rhythm of consistency. It became almost like brushing her teeth, a nightly routine that kept her environment and her mind clear. The effect was remarkable. For the first time in years, she walked into her bedroom without that nagging thought of "I'll deal with it tomorrow." Her nights became calmer, her mornings less frantic, and sleep came easier. She often said the house felt like it exhaled along with her. And here's where it gets powerful. Decluttering doesn't always require massive effort. 10 minutes at sunset can change how you feel at sunrise. But Althea's journey didn't stop with habits of the hands. The real breakthrough came when she realized clutter wasn't only physical, it lived in her heart, in unspoken memories and items left untouched out of fear. And the next step, tip 5, revealed how she finally found peace in letting those things go. Tip 5. The heirloom conversation. For years, Althea kept her old sewing machine tucked away in the corner of her guest room. It was heavy, scratched from decades of use, but it had stitched countless dresses for her daughters, Halloween costumes for her sons, and even curtains for her first home. To her, it wasn't just an object, it was a piece of her life. And yet, it sat gathering dust, unused and unseen. One afternoon, her granddaughter, only 19 and newly in college, stopped by. She mentioned wanting to learn how to sew, just like her grandmother once did. Instead of smiling politely and keeping her secret treasure hidden, Althea did something different. She invited her granddaughter into the guest room and lifted the cover off the old machine. What could have been a sad moment of letting go turned into a joyful exchange. She shared the story of the very first dress she ever made, guided her granddaughter's hands across the worn metal, and even passed along a small box of buttons she'd collected through the years. Her granddaughter's eyes lit up, not because she had gained a machine, but because she had gained a legacy. That day, Althea realized something powerful. Decluttering doesn't have to mean losing, it can mean giving love while you're still here to see it received. Passing on treasures isn't just about objects, it's about watching your story continue in someone else's hands. So let me ask you, what heirloom in your home could bring joy to a loved one right now, if only you chose to share it? Tip 6. The Sunday Reset Ritual. For Althea, weekends used to carry a quiet heaviness. Sundays especially felt long and lonely, with her children living in other states and the house too quiet after church. She often found herself drifting from room to room, noticing the clutter but feeling paralyzed by it. That's when she decided to reclaim Sundays, not as a day of overwhelm, but as a gentle reset. She called it her Sunday Reset Ritual. Instead of promising herself she would clean the whole house, she chose just one tiny target each week, a single shelf, a box in the garage, or one drawer in the dresser. Sometimes it took her only 5 minutes, other times closer to 15, but it never stretched into exhaustion. It became a rhythm, not a burden. Over time, this ritual gave her something she hadn't expected: peace. Each Sunday ended with a small, visible victory. One less pile staring at her, one less corner whispering "deal with me later." And the beauty of it was the consistency. Week by week, without pressure, her home began to shift from heavy to light. She even started pairing the ritual with tea and soft music, turning it into a moment she looked forward to, not something she dreaded. Here's the reflection for you. If you had to pick one corner today, where would you begin? Write it in the comments. You may inspire someone else who feels stuck. Tip 7. The Future Self Gift Box. The final shift in Althea's journey came when she asked herself a question she had never dared to face: what will my life look like 10 years from now? At 72, she imagined her future self at 82, still hopeful, still strong, but needing simplicity, comfort, and ease. That thought changed everything. Instead of keeping items just in case for children who had long since built their own lives, or holding on to things that only tied her to yesterday, she began creating what she called her future self gift box. Into this box went only the items her future self would genuinely treasure. Her softest quilt, a set of handwritten letters from loved ones, a few photographs that sparked joy, and a devotional she read every morning. These were not clutter, they were lifelines of comfort, safety, and joy. She looked around at the things she once clung to and realized how many of them would only burden her future. Would her 82-year-old self want to shuffle through 6 sets of china? Or would she be grateful for a lighter, calmer home? And that's the heart of it. Would your future self thank you, or feel buried by today's clutter? By curating her future self gift box, Althea wasn't just decluttering her home, she was preparing a life of dignity and peace. And that, more than anything, gave her the courage to move forward with lightness. Today, when Althea steps into her living room, she no longer feels surrounded by unfinished tasks or reminders of what she hasn't yet sorted. Instead, she feels peace. The once cluttered shelves now hold only a handful of treasures she truly loves. The corners that once whispered guilt now radiate calm. Her home finally reflects the woman she is today, not the seasons she has already lived through. But here's the truth her story reveals: decluttering is not about throwing away your past. It's about creating space for the life you still have ahead of you. It's about honoring the memories without being buried by them. And most importantly, it's about giving yourself the gift of lightness, the freedom to breathe, to move, and to rest without distraction. Althea's journey shows that even small, gentle steps can lead to transformation. A drawer, a basket, a single cup, 10 minutes a night, these aren't just tasks. They're acts of love for yourself. And every item you release is a door you open to peace. Now imagine what it would feel like to walk into your living room and feel that same calm. To know your space reflects not only where you've been, but where you're going. If Althea's story touched your heart, Don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share this video with a friend who needs it, and subscribe to Elderly Dose for more gentle wisdom, encouragement, and practical steps to lighten both your home and your heart.